Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is AmandaEnsing, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make your makeup last all day long and to get a flawless foundation base. This is one of my most requested makeup tips to film. Flawless foundation, how to make your base look good, how to make your foundation last, how to make your pores not show up. My skin is more normal dry, but whenever I lived on the East Coast, I used to be super oily. So I do have some older foundation videos on more oily type skin. However, all of the techniques that I use today can be used for any skin type. Just change the products up based on what works if you are more oily. Like I said, I am more normal dry. I could be wrong, but I feel like we all want that Instagram perfect skin. But today I'm gonna show you how to get it with no filter. Your base sets the tone for the rest of your makeup. Personally, I could go with flawless skin and not care about anything else on my face. So today I'm gonna show you my tips and tricks for flawless long wearing foundation. And the best part is that all the products that I'm using in this tutorial are all affordable drugstore products. The first step is skincare. You can use as much makeup as you want, but if you don't prep your skin for makeup, it's not gonna look as flawless as it could. I've already done my skincare, but I'll link some of my skincare videos in the description bar. And in this video, I like to let my skincare sink in the skin for at least 10 minutes or so before I go in with my base. But just make sure that you wash your skin and you moisturize. Even if you're oily, your skin needs hydration. And if you're dry, make sure that you are exfoliating and moisturizing because you don't wanna have little patches and dry flakes because your makeup's just gonna sit on top. You can't really cover up dry flakes on the skin. They need to be exfoliated off so that way your skin is even. The first step in your base is primer. This is so important, and I feel like it's something that's looked over. I don't know why. I feel like so many people skip primer and I don't get it. Primer is so important. Once you find a primer that works for you, you will never go back. You will get what I'm saying. Think of painting a wall. You don't just paint a wall. You have to prime the wall and then you paint the wall. And it's the same idea with makeup. I'm gonna be using the Maybelline Master Prime. This is the Hydrate and Smooth. I really like this primer. It's very soothing on my skin and it makes everything really smooth when I put my foundation on top. So I'm gonna use about this much. And I like to warm it up between my hands and then press it into the skin. I focus my primer in the center of my face because that's where my makeup tends to separate. So I like to focus on the center and blend outwards. My foundation usually doesn't wear off on these parts of my face, so I only put a little bit on those outer areas. There are so many primers out there. If you have larger pores, there are some amazing pore primers. Smashbox has one, Benefit Professional. If you are oily, there are great mattifying primers out there. I think my favorite mattifying would be the NYX Angel Veil or the Hourglass Mineral Veil. Those two are my favorite. I gravitate more towards hydrating ones and pore filling ones. I think that those are the best for what my skin needs right now, but use whatever works best for your skin type. You can even use a color correcting primer if you have a lot of redness or discoloration on your skin. I mean, there are so many primers out there to address so many concerns now. It's amazing how many primers are out there. So just use whatever works for your concern or your skin type. I'm gonna be using a full coverage foundation today, and this is my favorite full coverage foundation from the drugstore. This is the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Wear. I mentioned this in my best of 2017. This foundation is so amazing. It lasts all day and I love the finish. You will see as I apply, it's not a strictly matte finish. It does leave a little bit of a glow and I love that, so it's not super flat. And because it's not super matte, any skin type can use this. I'm using the shade 310 Sun Beige, and I'm gonna be applying this with my Beauty Blender. Now, another important tip is the tool that you're using for your foundation. You don't have to use a Beauty Blender, but in my opinion, a Beauty Blender gives you the most flawless airbrushed finish. I use this for everything, like everything. I've not found a dupe for this. I've tried a lot of other similar items and I've never found anything to replace this. I always go back to this. I know it is a little bit pricey, but it is so worth it. The texture is so soft and it really just pounces the makeup and it becomes one with your skin. This is my biggest trick to flawless foundation. I know you probably already know this, but make sure if you're using a Beauty Blender that you run it underneath of water and keep squeezing it so that way it expands. Like, it does not look like this when you buy it. It fits in this little holder, so it's smaller. And I only say this because I had a friend who used hers for a year and didn't know you were supposed to wet it. And if you don't wet it, it is very hard. You have to wet it so it expands and it softens. And then I take a paper towel to just squeeze out all of the excess water. So I like to start in the center of my face, and I just pounce the foundation. And the Beauty Blender really does all the work, like no joke. It does all the work for you. I am self-tan, so that's why my foundation is so much darker than my face. And you don't have to use a lot of pressure, just pouncing on the skin. And a little bit of this foundation goes a long way. Like that was one pump, and it covered, you see all my redness? Covers everything. A mistake I see a lot of people make, I have been guilty of it in the past as well, is when they want to cover something more, they just go in with a ton of foundation and keep building and building and building and building. I like to apply one even layer of foundation, so now that I have one even layer on my face, and then if there's anything I want to cover up, I will just take the smallest amount, so like just a tiny bit, like in this area where I'm breaking out, and blend it over a larger area, so I'm not concentrating a lot of product in that area. If it's an area that I'm gonna apply concealer, I don't go in with extra foundation. So like around my nose, I could apply a little bit more foundation, but I'm just gonna go in and conceal anyway, so there's no need. But right here, I'm gonna apply a little bit more and really make sure you blend it out. And I have no additional product, but I kind of like to go over my foundation again with my Beauty Blender just to make sure everything is even. Also around my nose, foundation can cake a little bit, so I just kind of like will do that and like pull out my skin and blend just to make sure none of the foundation settles in those lines. The next step is highlighting and concealing. Now for your concealer, you want to use a shade that's 1 to 2 shades lighter than your foundation color. Nothing too bright, but just bright enough to where it's going to highlight and provide a contrast. Now I'm going to highlight underneath of my eyes, center of my nose, around my nose, a little bit in the center of my forehead, and on the center of my chin right here. Sometimes I'll even go below my contour and highlight. However, before you go in and highlight and conceal under your eyes and everything else, make sure you cover up any acne or anything you're not satisfied with the foundation covering. So if you have any spots that you want to cover, you feel like your foundation didn't cover it, go in with a concealer, but make sure it's the same tone as your foundation. Don't use anything that's too light, or else it's just going to highlight that area. So like if you have a pimple right here, take a concealer that is very similar to your foundation already and just use a little brush or use your Beauty Blender and just tap it into place. So I'm gonna go in with the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Creamy Beige. This is my favorite drugstore concealer. This is just a little bit lighter than my foundation, and it also has a salmon peachy tone, so it helps to cover up and conceal darkness. I'm gonna start by applying this underneath of my eyes, and I literally go from the corner of my eye and bring it down the side of the nose and then out in a triangular shape. Make sure you get this little inner crevice of the eye too. Then I'm also gonna go on my eyelid. It's gonna be my eye primer today. Again, taking my Beauty Blender, I'm taking the pointy side, and I'm gonna lightly tap and blend this out. See, like it's such a big difference. So I'm gonna go on the sides of my nose. I get a lot of redness right here. Also down the center of my nose. And on my chin. And a little bit right here. This is key to making sure your makeup does not budge and that it stays all day. And it's setting your concealer, baking that cake. I'm gonna use the Airspun powder. It's one of my favorite drugstore loose powders, and it comes in a container just like this. Again, I'm using my Beauty Blender, but before I dip into the powder, I'm just gonna go one more time and blend my concealer around my eye area, because you can see like it already started to crease a little bit. You wanna make sure you blend out any creases before you set it. So I'm just going where I have lines under my eyes and making sure that it's no creases. So now I'm gonna dip into this powder with my Beauty Blender, and I'm gonna tap right underneath of the eyes. And also a little bit on my eyelid. This will lock your concealer into place, make sure you don't get oily throughout the day, and makes your foundation look flawless and airbrushed and smooth. It will literally change the way your concealer and your foundation looks. I like to do this face because it stretches my under eye and it gets all of the powder in there. It looks so much better than if you just take a brush and set your concealer. It'll make everything look so much better and last so much longer than if you just get a brush and tap on the powder. My nose does tend to get oily throughout the day. Also, I get a little shiny right here. I'm gonna take this little powder brush, just putting a little bit on here, and I'm gonna dust over these areas I tend to get a little bit shiny. When I bake, I want the powder really concentrated. I want it to highlight that area. So that's why I use the sponge underneath of the eyes and on my nose and on my chin, because you're concentrating it in that area to really highlight and setting. That's why with this brush, I'm using it in these areas because I don't want it to emphasize these areas. I just want to set these areas. So now I'm gonna go in and dust off this excess powder. Your makeup is not gonna budge, girl. Like, it ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of my makeup and I will be back to show you the last tip, the last step to sealing your makeup. So the last step in making sure your foundation looks flawless and lasts all day is a setting spray. Today, I'm gonna be using the Pixi Makeup Fixing Mist. Setting spray is all about preference. There are mattifying, there are hydrating ones, there are luminous ones, there are matte ones. There are so many different options. This one is my favorite from the drugstore, from Pixi. As far as high-end, my favorite is the Glam Glow Glow Setter, but today I'm gonna be using this bad boy. This has rose water and green tea. It feels so good on the skin and it really locks everything in. And also, if you have any powder sitting on the skin or anything that looks uneven, using a setting spray is going to normalize everything and make it look just like your skin. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned some cool tips and tricks to avoid cake face while looking flawless. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you did, and to hit subscribe if you have not already joined my A-team. I'll link my other social media platforms down below so we can be besties: Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, and have a Facebook. I love you guys so much. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.